Hi, I'm Tony Pulis, Premier League manager, and this is Midnite Boxed In. I'm surrounded by 11 fans who can argue the statement I make. Please, go easy on me.
No chance.
Wenger and Arsenal couldn't cope with playing at Stoke at the Britannia Stadium.
Ooh, it's blood boiling.
And also, Arteta is now using my tactics.
Yeah! Go on, Tony!
Go on, Tony!
All right, Tony. Lee Judge is Arsenal fan. Listen, I'm going to say a few things that I agree with you and a few things that I'm not. I understand that you had to be over-aggressive towards Arsenal and all that because of different form. Do you ever feel a little bit guilty that you probably went too far, like with the Aaron Ramsey injury, like when you look at him? I know you're being Welsh as well. He was such a wonderful player, but obviously that injury, I know like you're not saying they had to go out there and do players, but did you feel that because you felt that you had to be a little bit aggressive, did you think you was over-aggressive?
No, I think that incident, if you're dealing with that incident, Ryan Shawcross was late in the challenge. He got there as quickly as he possibly could, but he never meant to do what happened.
Yeah, I accept that.
100%. He's such a great lad. There's no way in a million years Ryan would go out and do anything like that. People have taken it the other way, and obviously through the club because of the association we had with Arsenal then, and especially the supporters, them coming to the Britannia, and how much they disliked it, and how much they thought it was just too physical for them. But to say that Ryan meant to do anything to Ramsey is absolute nonsense.
No, I'm not saying that he did, but I'm just saying, like, you know, obviously you was like had to be aggressive against Arsenal at that time.
Well, I don't think it wasn't just aggression. We just set up to make it. Every time we went to to play Arsenal on their home ground, they had the biggest pitch in the league. They had the grass cut like a bowling green. They had 3 players whose wages were more than our 25 players put together, and they did it because it suited them. When they came to the Britannia, we narrowed the pitch in. We grew the grass nice and long, and we made it what suited us.
Yeah, and I
not suited Arsenal. And I think what happens is sometimes you get so driven one way that you only see it one way. Why can't we do that when we go then to the Emirates and they prepare everything that suits their players?
Yeah, and I get that. And one of the things I want to ask you, did you feel there was obviously like a touchy relationship between you and Arsene Wenger, like, and I, from an Arsenal point of view, like, I'm going to say this, I felt it was a little bit disrespectful of Wenger or Arsenal to turn around and say about the rugby. Did that get your goat up to make, right, we put that in the dressing room, we're going to kick them a little bit harder sort of thing?
No, I think if anything, it rile us. I don't think it riled us. I think what it did, it just made it more competitive. I think it was good for the players. It wasn't good for the players. It was absolutely fantastic for the players because they had another angle to motivate themselves to play against Arsenal every time they came to the Brit. And I just think it went from step to step. Obviously, Arsene had a massive...
Arsenal, not arse.
Yeah.
No, you got it right the first time.
Arsenal and Arsene had a massive effect over the FA and the Premier League and everything else. And from the point of the grass being too long, there's a rule brought in that the grass had to be a certain height. He moaned about the width of the pitch. Then they said the pitches should be only this wide. He tried to ban throw-ins. He wanted football to be played, he said, with your feet, not throwing balls in and things like that. So it was all... We actually took it positively, if anything else, and it made us more determined when we played Arsenal.
So what I'm saying is, did you feel like a little bit resentment to Arsenal because what I'm saying is you didn't probably get the credit that you deserved?
No, I think the resentment, if there was any resentment, and to me it was all brilliant, bring it on. The thing was that the rugby comment, as you've just said now, saying it was a rugby team and it was this, that and the other. That was disrespectful to the club, not to me or the team, because it actually motivated us. But for the club it did. And I think the support was bought into that as well. So every time Arsene turned up and walked down that touchline at Britannia, he used to get some fun from the supporters.
Yeah, so it was always a difficult... Listen, from an Arsenal point of view, and I'm going to say it was always a difficult place, to go. So I think that's a compliment to you, that you could do that, and I don't think that... I think at the end of the day, the tactics of... there's different ways to skin a cat, if you was to play Arsenal football-wise, you weren't going to do it. So you had to go that... I'm going to say over-aggressive look again.
We did play football.
Well... What's
in
all
a
these yellow
different...
cards going up?
Mate,
In
it
a
wasn't
different
over
way.
aggressive.
You're not
Arsenal were
arguing
just
with him.
pansies.
You're not arguing. You're just, yeah, get him off.
Now, come on in.
Oh, not another Arsenal supporter.
No, listen, you guys have touched on the Arsene Wenger thing already. I hear most of what you're saying.
Yep.
I'll go towards the Arteta one because I know most people nowadays, especially non-Arsenal fans, they love the memes with you in the cap and then they put Arteta's face on.
I
You're
think
the posh Stoke. That's what you are, the posh Stoke.
No, we're going to get into it, no problem.
I actually think Arteta has done brilliant because he knew he was going to take a lot of criticism.
Sure.
From especially outside the football club.
Sure.
Because of the stick Arsenal gave us when Wenger was there. So I think he's had he's had the balls to look at it and look at the stats and go, that could be the difference between us winning the league instead of coming second.
Sure, and as you can imagine, I would gladly take that. I'm interested to know what you mean by...
Were you gladly happy when we played you and we used it and beat you using it?
No, hold on a minute.
Get into it.
But I haven't. I just said I was agreeing with him at that part. I said I was agreeing with him on the Arsene Wenger part, right? Because I say you win anyhow you can.
He wasn't agreeing with
That's
him.
what.
Shut up, you're at West Ham.
When you say that
just answered it.
Arteta's copying your tactics, what do you mean by that? Just out of interest.
Just a long throw. Everybody thinks that
The long throw. Okay.
The long throw.
That's interesting. Can I give a stat? Can I give a stat to the camera?
Corners.
Rory Delap contributed to 25 goals just purely from throw-ins. Arsenal have scored 1 goal
No,
from
what
a
about the
throw-in.
set pieces?
By
Set
the way.
pieces.
No, wait from set pieces.
I agree. I'm getting to that one, but he started with the throw-ins, right? So again, I have to initially say, well, the throw-in part, which was a massive part of your game, you would agree,
And
is
something
not part
you
of
didn't
Arsenal's.
enjoy.
Yeah, but you
Of
tried.
course,
Are you throwing
Mate,
it in
just
long or not?
Victor
What are we
Yokeres
talking
is the
about?
poor
Man,
man's
we
Ken
get-
Win
we
Jones.
enjoy
Why
it
are
now,
guys
though.
saying-
We enjoy it
Yeah,
now,
like, I
like.
think guys are arguing things that I'm not saying.
Does Rice throw it long?
Yeah, but he's not Rory Delap, is he?
Well, no one's Rory Delap.
That one is reasonable. So as I said, anyway.
So
I
you've
agree
got the
with you.
throw-in. So you've copied the throw-in.
No, we haven't copied the throwing because we.
But you haven't been successful at it. But you've copied it.
You're more than
you
welcome to say
you haven't
that.
been
It's
successful.
not the same throw-ins.
But then the set plays as well. So you've taken that on board.
So the reason why I disagree with the statement about Arteta's copied the tactics is because I agree with you on the set piece perspective, right? In terms of we are very strong from set pieces. However, I'd argue Stoke were more reliant because you can look at the numbers as well. Almost half of the goals, 45% or so of the goals were from set pieces. We exclude penalties. I don't really.
It wasn't 45%.
Well, I mean, I can get the numbers for you in front of me if you want to.
Can we get
Because
Arsenal's
saved it.
numbers up this season?
Of the
please?
188 goals, 81 were from set pieces. That's nearly half. We'd agree, right?
Yeah.
Arsenal's this season, we've scored 108 goals, 24 have been from set pieces. That's less than a quarter.
Last season, how many did you score from set plays?
It would be a similar amount. The percentages
I
be similar.
think it was more. I think we had, when we were at West Bromwich Albion, I think we scored something like 30 odd goals from set plays.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think Arteta got a similar record with Arsenal.
But the number of goals scored compared to the rest of the goals, right? I don't think we're as reliant because if I'm saying less than a quarter are from set pieces, I'm saying that Stoke were more reliant on just long balls.
What I want to ask you is that you've added what we had. Sure. You've agreed to hopefully win you the title.
No, but it's not added what you had as if like Stoke invented set pieces. Set pieces have been a thing for how many decades?
Yeah,
I am saying that it's another weapon.
You're saying that Stoke were just one-dimensional. We weren't just one-dimensional.
I'm saying you're more reliant.
Secondly, now you've become reliant. More reliant than what you were 2 years ago.
Yeah, more reliant than what we were.
Why
are guys saying Why
so you've become more reliant.
Tony Pulis.
I hear the set piece thing, but if we're saying we've copied tactics, right? I'm saying you were more reliant on the one-dimensional of just go long, kick it long to Ricardo Fullers and Ken Win Jones and these guys. If I'm saying that less than a quarter of the goals are from set pieces, in my opinion, I think
because Arsenal weren't as good at doing it as what we were, but you've still done it. Listen,
I think it's a compliment.
I take it as a compliment.
Yeah, exactly.
Massive compliment. But you just, stats say you didn't do it as well as we've done it.
Is that the case? Given that,
well, you've just given me the stats. You've just said we were.
Yeah,
more,
as in you've done.
I'm
talking about having more of a reliance though, because if you having one
style
style of play,
we did it better than you.
That's cool, but that's not what we're asking.
What are you asking? What are you
It's very-
asking? What are you
I'm
saying?
making a point, and everyone starts shouting. I'm making the point that we are less reliant on set pieces, because if less than a quarter of the goals are set pieces, that means
For the
we
money
are
you
playing
pay,
a more.
you should be, mate.
Yeah, we
For
are.
what
But
they add, for what they add to what they've got, you should be.
We
I
ain't
agree
relying
with you,
on
but
set
that's not-
pieces. And it ain't your
25%.
argument over
Yeah,
there.
that's what
Like,
I'm
you
saying.
concentrate
I'm
on
making
beating
it. Of
Tottenham.
course, that's the
Support
case.
Tony.
Of course that. No, of course that is the case, but you're not hearing my point of it can't be a copying of a tactics if the majority of goals are scored from elsewhere. It's adding another tool
let me
to the
just
arsenal.
make this point as well, which is an important point. Tony Pulis didn't start long throws. That was going on in the 60s.
Facts.
Set plays in the 60s. And if you look at the stats, the important stats, there's more goals scored off 4 or less passes than any over. And set plays are a massive
And that
value
I
for
fully agree
scoring
with.
goals. So it's not just Stoke, it's not just Tony Pulis. You look back, like was it Tamblyn for Chelsea who had that long throw?
Bobby
Who's a
Tamblyn.
Chelsea
He should know about Bobby
supporters?
Tamblyn, but he doesn't know about
I'm
Bobby
not
Tamblyn.
106.
He
like
wasn't
you.
there when I was
Mate,
there.
This,
man.
this man's a time traveller.
Yeah, we can talk about Stanley Matthews at Stoke if you want. We can have a great conversation, eh? Then we're buddies again.
Martin Chivers done it at Spurs a years back ago. It's always been here.
It was what's my name? The lad, was it Chandler or whatever at Tranmere? He was absolutely fantastic at it as well. So it's been there for years.
Me and Tony know. You guys don't know.
these-
Me and Tony know.
Listen, you've
Now
got
we're
Barclays,
friends.
man.
Now is this for those of us
These
who
are
remember?
first divisionsmen.
This for those of us who remember.
Oh, I think Arteta's done brilliant. The great thing about Arteta is that what we've just been discussing, he's actually brought on board what they dislike so much about Stoke.
No, that part I agree with him.
Question: who'd win a tear-up?
My next statement is Sir Alex Ferguson is the greatest manager ever in English football.
I'm Kim, Man City fan. Before we get into it, I don't want to kiss your ass, but I do have to say, you and Big Sam, I think, massively disrespected by the media. I think that any way you can win, you should do it. I think you're a top manager. So I'll say that before I lay into you. Sir Alex Ferguson isn't the best manager of all time, and it's because Pep Guardiola's there. Sir Alex Ferguson may have been at one point, but if you take any single metric of whatever you would like, so you talk about style of play, I think almost everyone would agree that Pep Guardiola has brought in a better style of play.
I think in English football, I think the footprint that Pep has left is the biggest footprint that I've ever seen in my lifetime.
Okay, so
Right from schoolboy, you go and watch the boys on Sundays and watch them play out and try and do it the Pep way. It's absolutely fantastic.
So we agree with that. So we agree that Pep has had a better footprint than Sir Alex Ferguson.
A bigger footprint.
Bigger footprint.
Yeah, on football completely.
Okay. Then the only other way we can take it is statistically. So per year that Pep Guardiola has been in England, he has won more trophies than Sir Alex Ferguson.
Yeah.
So I would say trophies per year, which is all we can go on because Pep hasn't been there for 25 years. Pep wins that as well.
No.
Why not?
He wins it, but he doesn't win it in the right way. Pep Guardiola has spent nearly £2 billion. How much has Sir Alex spent in his time?
Whoa,
So if you
get out of that,
if
you
look- if
horrible
you
Man
look at
City.
it,
Get
pound
out
for-
of that.
If you look at it pound for pound, you've got a situation where a manager has actually bought and spent more than anybody else in the history of English football. And I've sat with Pep in the room and we've talked about his time at Barcelona. And he said to me, I couldn't believe I was the manager of such a great team. We had 8 great players, international players. Did I have anything to do with that? Was I telling Messi what to do when he went out on the football pitch? Did I tell him to do this, that? I couldn't tell him. He was a genius. And he went through all the players. And that's what he's done. He's gone to Man City and he's bought the best players. The best players win you football matches.
And the massive...
But he spent an absolute... Hold on a minute. He spent an absolute fortune. So much more than any other manager in British history. Sir Alex was on a level par with other managers. If you have a look at what Chelsea spent, what Arsenal spent. So the competition was much more stronger for Sir Alex, not for Pep. I think Pep is way above anybody else in what he spent.
The problem is...
And he's continued, even this window. We've gone through a window where he spent nearly another £350 million. It's just unbelievable.
The problem is though,
There's no problem. You want to talk about facts.
Okay, I will talk about
the
facts.
facts are, and Pep will agree that he's bought the best players. He hasn't manufactured. Sir Alex took over a club that was actually in going downhill. You know, they had water in the dressing rooms dripping through the lot, and he picked, he picked the football club up and spent 4 or 5 years taking a lot of stick from everybody, and I mean everybody, about that football, and nearly getting the sack. It was only Mark Robbins who scored that goal at Forest that took them to the final. They win that final, and that keeps Alex in the job. So he's absolutely. No, hold on a minute. He's absolutely fought like anybody at the beginning. Pep comes into Man City. You know, there's a country that own Man City. It's not an owner. It's a country that own Man City. And everything he's wanted, everything he's needed, he's got it. Listen, Pep will be the first one to say, if I didn't have that money, I wouldn't be successful.
Now let me speak.
You speak to Alex, and Alex will say, I actually built 3-4 different teams.
Right.
Built them.
Do you know what
and don't forget the group of 92.
Okay, great. Let me speak. Let me speak. Let me finish then. This whole myth, this whole sob story of Sir Alex Ferguson's rags to riches. You go back, and every single season that he won the Premier League, the summer before, he was in the top 2 or 3 spenders, because that's how you win football leagues. You spend money. Yes, the money has changed.
So that's how Man City have done it then.
I know. I'm not denying that. They've both done it. The money has changed. The money has changed. The money has changed. The money has changed because TV revenue has got exacerbated. The amount of fees that are paid for players is far larger than it ever has been. But let's not forget that Sir Alex Ferguson broke the British transfer record many, many, many times, well before Pep Guardiola did. So it's completely untrue.
Don't forget where Pep started from. So he actually joined
Barcelona B team.
No, going into Man City. We're not talking about Barcelona. We're talking about Man City. Going into Man City, he had a great team.
A great team.
He took
we had
over.
Alexander Kolarov at centre back.
You had
Fernandinho at centre back.
Fernandinho.
We had a poor team. There's no.
Well done, Simon.
Whereas Sir Alex, not only has he produced great teams, he's also produced great players through the youth.
And I can guarantee you Lionel Messi's not the player he is today without Pep Guardiola. I can tell you that for a fact. You can talk about money all you want.
Nonsense.
You can talk about.
I'm not going. No, you can't go any further than that. You think?
What you think that Sir Alex would have made Messi just as good?
That's
absolutely not true.
That's
not true. That's not true.
You didn't say it.
That's not true. Pep Guardiola has made Messi a better player.
No chance.
Of course.
Messi.
Well, you think he had no impact on his career?
Messi was born a great player.
Of course, and Pep Guardiola made him the best.
No.
Yeah, he did. Of course he did.
No, not at all.
Of course he did.
You ask Pep what work he did with Messi. He didn't do any work. He didn't have to do any work.
That's just him being humble. Of
no,
course he's going to say that.
He didn't have to do
he
no
hasn't
work.
Got an ego.
No, not at all.
He improved him. He must have improved him. He was his manager. He was the manager during the most crucial period of his career.
Absolute nonsense. They had Barcelona were the best
team.
So
you tell me,
best. Hold on a minute. The best team I've ever seen.
Okay, so
because they had 8 international players playing in a club side, and Messi was better than anybody else. So you've got a situation where you're saying if it wasn't for Pep, Messi wouldn't be a great player.
No, I didn't say that. I said he's made him better. Are you genuinely telling me? No,
I think the players he was playing with made him better.
Answer this. Tony Pulis takes over Messi at 17 years old. Pep Guardiola takes him over at 17. Who makes him a better player?
Well,
you think it's complete 50-50?
Give me the money or give me the Barcelona team.
And you would have won what Pep Guardiola would.
Listen, I'll just send them out to play. Don't have to do nothing else.
Craziness. It's craziness.
You just send them.
You're massively disrespecting. You're massively disrespecting the work that Pep Guardiola has done with players. No one is saying that he's taken over a terrible team.
Why didn't he coach fullbacks?
He's bought players, and he's made them infinitely better than they ever would have been. Bernardo Silva is one of the best midfielders in Premier League history. John Stones was laughed out of town. Pep Guardiola bought him in, made him an absolute world beater. Same with Ilkay Gundogan. None of these players are players who were already world class.
But what about the players that have gone backwards underneath him, like Jack Grealish?
Jack Grealish going backwards underneath him. Bought him for 100 million. He won the treble.
But that doesn't mean he didn't go
He won the treble.
He
won the treble.
It doesn't matter if he won the treble.
Swap him for him. That is absolute tripe. That is nonsense.
What about your fullbacks when you couldn't win the league?
My point is that Pep has been a great manager, even at Bayern Munich, but he's had the best players.
I'm Alex and I'm a Liverpool fan. Listen, in terms of longevity and, footprints on the game, we talk about that. Man management, Fergie is, and rightfully so, is right up there. For me, though, in terms of efficiency, we talk about trophies won, time it's taken to do it. Fergie didn't win a trophy for the first 6 years. You talk about that Robins goal. I remember seeing a newspaper headline that said he's got to go, and, there was a lot of
supporters as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I think when you look at Bob Paisley, 6 titles in 9 years, 3 European Cups in 9 years.
Just one thing on that.
I think efficiency. Dominated Europe. Fergie never dominated Europe.
Do you think that was Bob, or do you think it was the people
it was
before?
the boot room. It was the boot room.
That's what I mean.
Ronnie Moran and Bill Shankly, they laid the foundations.
I just think if you look at Liverpool for that period have been and were the most successful English club.
Still are now, by the way.
Ever. But I don't honestly think that was down to one person. I think that was everything that you wanted.
But my question to you...
hold on a minute. Everything that you wanted to build a football club from the top to the bottom was in place, and I think Bob took over. And again, they tell me he was an absolute fantastic gentleman and everything else. But again, it was all set. That they had an identity. Liverpool had an identity that was just unbelievable. And they'd go and pick players like Rush from Chester and people like that and just integrate them in. They were fantastic.
Did it the right way.
Fantastic recruitment. And the way they played, I think Graham Souness tells that story about, the first game they bought him from, was it Tottenham for whatever it was. And nobody had spoken to him. And he's in the dressing room before the first game. He's making his debut, and he walks over to Joe Fagan and says to Joe, what does the gaffer want from me? And Joe Fagan shouts out, Gaffer, what have you bought? You've bought someone who doesn't know what to do. And that was Liverpool. You went out and you played that Liverpool way. So I don't think. I think if you're going to talk about Liverpool in that period, their most successful period, I think you've got to look at the group and not an individual. Because I think if you pick Bob, who was absolutely fabulous, but if you pick him and you don't talk about the others, I think that's being disrespectful to Liverpool and that era.
I actually think the boot room era...
You agree with me?
Yeah, no, in terms of like the foundations, the Liverpool way, pass and move. Yeah, of course, that was, Shanks in the 60s, even Joe Fagan was in the boot room, Ronnie Moran.
Yeah,
that bleeds into Bob,
Kenny,
and I think there is no kind of boot room kind of figurehead at Liverpool now that's carried that on, and it's been lost a bit. But that Liverpool way, which took us to 3 European Cups in...
they were fantastic. I was lucky enough to play with Jimmy Case, and Jimmy was fabulous. You talk about people, hard people and hard
Tommy
players.
Smith, Jimmy Case,
Jimmy
fellas.
was... They were just... But if you speak to them about what Liverpool had an identity, and it was obviously built through Shanks and then right through, and Can
I ask you a question?
Just quickly... Jimmy said that you would train at Liverpool and the respect everybody had for one another was unbelievable. After games, they would take their shirts off and wrap it up and put it the right way up, put their shorts on top of it and put their socks on. This is after games. They've just played in games. And the respect that Shankly had said, listen, you don't throw your shirt in the middle of the dressing room. That's Liverpool. That's who you're representing. You look after those shirts and respect them when you're playing and when you're not playing. And I think that identity started with Bill, obviously, who was just unbelievable. Yeah. I was lucky enough to listen to him talk the 1 year, and it is just fascinating listening to him. But that went right through. I don't honestly think you could compare one of the managers without talking about... Now, if you put them all together and say, well, they were more successful than Sir Alex, fine. But we're talking about one person.
My question to you is, do you think Bob Paisley would have got to 6 years without winning a trophy without being sacked?
How long was Bill there for? Until he won his first trophy?
59 to 75, Bill Shankly was.
But before he won his first trophy, how long was he there for?
Well, I'm talking about Bob Paisley.
Yeah, but you've just made
the answer, Alex.
You just talked about.
I don't want to say a number and it's wrong.
I think Bill started in the second division as well, didn't he?
Got them
so
into.
It would have taken him 3 or 4 years. They stuck with Bill,
but with Bob,
Manchester United stuck with Sir Alex.
With Fergie, and I'll call him Sir Alex because he's a Sir. He does deserve that respect. I think when you look at Europe, yes, 13 league titles in 27 probably will never be achieved again. But when you're talking about 20 20 trophies in 9 years, the efficiency of that, 3 times European champions. And if certain things didn't happen, it would have been more than that, in my opinion.
I think
to dominate Europe like that is something Fergie can't chat to him about.
I think if we're going to go a little bit deeper, you have a look at the Real Madrid teams that Manchester United had to play. The Galacticos, they were just unbelievable. You have a look at the Barcelona team that Pep managed, with 8 really top international players. I don't honestly think...
There was very good teams in the 80s,
Yeah,
though.
I think Liverpool...
Juventus, AC Milan.
Yeah, I know, but I don't think there was anybody... I don't think there was anybody as good as those 2 Spanish teams.
I think Liverpool were that team in the 80s,
well,
though. Liverpool
brilliant.
were the Barcelona.
That's why they were winning it all the time.
Yeah. And who was the manager?
And fine, they absolutely... Yeah, look, I can't argue with that, and I won't argue with it. What I'll say, the identity was built.
Oh, I hear that.
Built up through years.
Liverpool obviously played against an amazing Juventus team with Platini in '85. Lost the final there. That could have been 4 Champions Leagues we're talking about. That was actually Fagan. But I think what Bob did, in terms of, like you say, it wasn't just he carried on the foundations that were set by Shanks. He passed that on to Fagan, and then he kept on winning. And then Fagan passed on to Kenny, and then he kept on winning. So the boot room as a collective, that's what we call it at Liverpool, I genuinely think has birthed someone who can definitely stand up against Fergie.
That period of time for Liverpool was just unbelievable. Absolutely fantastic.
I think we can both agree on that.
Yeah.
Go on then. Nice one, mate. Good to see you.
Good argument, eh?
My final statement is players with egos should be treated differently.
Hello, I'm Louis and I'm a Chelsea fan. Can you define for me, when you say players with egos, right, there is such a vast chasm between the different types of players. So I could talk about right now, I watch Alejandro Garnacho every week. He's the worst thing I've ever seen play for Chelsea. But you got Eric Cantona as another example of a player who was just a maverick, who was spectacular to watch and, walks a goat down the street in Hampstead. So, what do you mean specifically by managing those sort of players and having been in that position? Like, have you ever had to deal with things like that?
Yeah, massively. Even early days at Gillingham, we had Asaba and Bob Taylor up front. I don't know if the lads can ever remember that. Anyway, we had a psychologist come in the one year to analyse the players for a week. So he'd never do Bob Taylor, this is. He never wanted to do a warm-up. He just wanted to go out and kick balls and this, that and the other. And I was very, very strict on making sure that, we didn't pick up injuries, we didn't get anything wrong. So I'd really, really want people to do the warm-ups properly and everything else. Anyway, cut long story short, she stayed with us for a week and analysed all the work the players were doing, what they weren't doing and everything else. And we played Wickham. I think it was Wickham, on a Saturday. We trained all week, played Wickham away from home, and Bob scored 4 goals. I think we won 5-1 or whatever. Bob either got a hat-trick or got 4 or whatever. On the Monday, she came in and she had this piece of paper with all the players. She rated them, how good professionals they were. And who was the bottom of the list? It was Bob Taylor. And she said, he's your worst player. And I said, no, he's not. He's the most important player. Because come Saturday, the results then decide my future and also how successful the club is and what the supporters go on like. He's the one that makes the difference. So when making that difference, you give him a little bit of leeway.
So when they're not, how do you deal with those sort of players?
Well, I don't think they hang around too long. I think if you've got I've had Ricardo Fuller at Stoke, and Rick was just a complete and utter maverick. He'd turn up some days and you wouldn't even think he was with you. He was shot away. He was just spaceman. But come Saturday in the Championship, he was the difference between us getting promoted and not getting promoted. When he went into the Premier League, people said, he'd struggled to make the step up. He was absolutely fantastic the first couple of years. But he was different. He would do things differently. I've told the story many times of him going away for Jamaica. Jamaica didn't even have an international game that week, but he swore blind they did. and because it was Ricardo and because he was so important to us, that we let him go. And he stayed away for 2 weeks. He didn't stay away for 1 week. He stayed and came back on the day that we were playing Wolves. I think Wolves were second in the league. We were fourth the year we got promoted. And he turned up as though nothing had happened. I put him sub. I was absolutely livid with him. Yet he comes on, he creates a goal and scores a goal and wins us the game. And that is the difference. I think as a manager, when you're managing, you've got to understand that if people are not actually working with you and they're not contributing that much with you, then you get rid of them. The ones who actually are a little bit different, but they make the difference, then you've got to manage them. You've got to be a little bit different with them. And and this is a great example, before the Wolves game, because Rick had been away and the lads knew that that Jamaica hadn't played or whatever, and he hadn't turned up. They were really, nobody had sit with him on the bus. He was isolated. He comes on, scores the winning goal, gets the goal, and makes the winning goal. After the game, who they all hugging and kissing? Ricardo. And they accepted it, because the most important thing is that Saturday game. If you deliver that on that Saturday, and you deliver in a way that you help those players, and you help the club and you help the team, you have to manage them in a different way.
So let me sort of bring it forward now, because I agree with that. I mean, we've seen John Terry and other players all talk about Eden Hazard as one of the worst trainers at Chelsea.
Yeah.
But on a weekend, he turned up.
Fantastic,
He's the best player I've ever seen live play for my team. But I'm going to use... Obviously, Chelsea now is a very different beast to what it was many, many years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, if you're in that position, of course, Nixon has had to deal with Alejandro Garnacho as well, and a multitude of other players that are currently at Chelsea who believe, obviously, with how Chelsea's being run, you said those players would be out the door very quickly. With such long contracts and such large sums of money, if you're in that position, how would you deal with it?
Yeah, I just think you're going down a different route now. I signed Ricardo.
Yeah.
My responsibility.
Yeah.
I took full responsibility. You go to Chelsea now and you go to other clubs, the manager or the coach isn't picking those players. And how the hell they determine their characters from just stats is amazing. When I was a young manager, I used to go and watch games 3 times a week. And if I fancied a player, I'd be ringing players up who played with him. I'd be ringing coaches up who work with him. I'd be speaking to managers who work with him. In those days, you had a group of scouts who worked in London, a group of scouts who worked in the Midlands, a group of scouts that worked up north. Any touch that he'd had along that way with those people, I would ring them up. I'd try and find out about him off the field. And then I'd go and watch him twice away from home. Not at home, because I think you can find out their characters better when they're up against it away from home. And that would determine then whether I took a player. The most important thing for me was character, and character. Because I always thought I could improve them with the way I work with teams. And I could get them to integrate with the group better. And I think if you've got 8 or 9 really strong characters in your team who turn up every week, roll their sleeves up, and when you tap them on the back when they go onto the pitch, they actually give their everything for you. You can have 1 or 2 little mavericks along the way. If you haven't got that base, and I don't, I'm not. You're a Chelsea supporter. You'll know better than me.
We're probably going to agree.
If you haven't got that base, if you haven't got the John Terrys and the Lampards and people like that through the middle of the team, you are, I don't think, going to be as good as you could be.
And I absolutely agree with you. Awesome. Thank you very much, Tony. Cheers.
Nixon, Man United fan. So I largely agree, because I think football has kind of lost the sense of being able to have mavericks in a team, because it's gone to such a sort of systematic style of football that there's not a place for them. So I actually agree that we should somewhat allow them to kind of not do what they want, but I understand. But I have an example where I think it went wrong, because so Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's stint at Man United, I think there was a period where it was going in the right direction. I think, don't get me wrong, he was never the greatest tactician, but I think he was creating an environment and a group that could succeed. Yep. We then signed Ronaldo. Ronaldo was still scoring goals, not offering enough out of possession, but I think the biggest issue what happened there with Ronaldo was that he not upset the dressing room, but there wasn't harmony in the dressing room anymore. So for whatever reason, probably because he's Ronaldo, obviously got a massive ego, probably Ole Gunnar Solskjaer kind of playing up to that. I think that upset the dressing room and inevitably led to a sack. So I think that there is an example of kind of where it didn't work. Yeah. And it should have probably been handled differently.
I think there's 2 points to make there. Bringing Cristiano back, absolutely all the supporters, including yourself, would have been doing somersaults.
Yeah, of course.
Him then coming into the team and not performing like he did 10 years prior, not only on the players who were playing with him, but also the supporters who were supporting him. And I think the problem you've got then is the manager looking after him because of the support he's got? Is the manager looking after him because he's such a big and strong character in the dressing room that a lot of people have gone his way? Or is the manager then strong enough to go, no, thanks very much, but I've got to get rid of you? for the benefit of football. Now, that is an issue only managers can decide, and you can only decide on your own feelings. If you're strong enough, personality-wise, and you don't mind a little bit of confrontation with either the supporters or the players involved, then if it's best for the football club, you have to do it.
So in that scenario,
I wouldn't have taken him in the beginning.
No, but that's the thing. I don't think he actually wanted him. Funny enough, I don't think he wanted him. I don't think Ole wanted him.
Well,
I think it was a board thing that they decided he was signing him.
I don't think that's different to a lot of things that are happening now. I think there's a lot of players being brought into football clubs that the manager has nothing to do with.
And if they have a ego the size of Ronaldo's, which you could say is valid because he's Ronaldo, what do you do in that scenario? Because if you can see he's upset in the dressing room.
No, I just think Ronaldo 10 years ago is a different Ronaldo to today.
Yeah, of course.
So, what he did then, brilliant, unbelievable footballer, absolutely fantastic. But if he's not the same, you don't keep him there just because he's Ronaldo. You've got to look after the team, you've got to look after the club.
In that scenario, you would treat him the same as everyone else?
No, I'd treat him differently. He'd go.
You get rid of him?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that's my argument. Yeah, good.
Yeah.
So the statement was that players with egos need to be treated differently, which I agree, and I think that there are certain mavericks in the game which should be protected. But I do also think that the actual recipe for success now is to take out any individuality from players and make everyone the same. If you look at Arteta's team, there's no egos in that team. Pep Guardiola, as been mentioned before, has taken out all of the ego-ness of any of the players he's had. We've seen what he's doing with Cherky at the moment. He leaves him on the bench because he doesn't want him to have an ego.
He's got a great player to replace him, mind.
But because of that, though.
But do you think if Pep didn't have the quality there that he's got, do you think Pep would put up with him a little bit? Do you think he could manage him enough to accept that he has got that little,
100%. I think managing egos differently from every other player works up until a certain point, because I think it will win you games. Mavericks win you games, but teams who are completely unified will win you the league.
Yeah, but it's all determined about where you are in respect of the team. I think if you've got a group of absolute fantastic players like Man City have got, I think you can be a little bit more stringent and a little bit more disciplined, because you've talked about players who've left Man City 5 minutes ago. He can go and he'll come in and he'll do the same job and have the same attitude as the rest of them. So that is management for me. I think management is, if you don't win football matches, you don't stay in football very long as a manager. So the first and foremost, irrespective of whichever way you play, whichever way you don't play, if you don't win football matches, you're gone. That's it. So you have to find a way to win. Once you've found that way, obviously then you've got to keep it going, because things change so quickly. So management and being a manager today is difficult, if not more difficult in my time, because you've got social media. What we've talked, all of us will have different opinions on different people. Now you can actually proclaim it to the world, where it was just either local or just within the group. So that puts more pressure on people. I would say, without a question of a doubt, management has most probably become a little bit more difficult today, because coaches, not managers, coaches are dealing with players they've not brought in. They're dealing with players they don't really know the background of, and egos. And the egos are absolutely massive today. You've got the agents, you've got all that going on. So to manage the situation we're talking about, you have to be really, really good.
So in relation to the statement that you made about treating certain players differently,
in respect of where the team is and where you are.
But do you think then that it is possible now to win the Premier League with a team full of mavericks, when, for example, the most successful managers over the last few years have been Klopp, Pep, and probably Arteta now, who really all of their work that has been done has been to eliminate the egos and make everyone singing from the same hymn sheet. So do you think you can win a league now with mavericks and with egos?
I think if you've got one or two players, say in the Liverpool team, in the Man City team, in the Arsenal team, that are a little bit different than the others, but turn up on Saturday and make the difference between winning against one of their rivals and not winning, the manager will have that, and he'll work with it, and he'll work with the group with it, and the group will accept it, because that one little maverick is doing something to win them the big games. And I think that goes down to management. Yeah. It's looking at you. When I started management, Alex Stock, you wouldn't know him, said to me, and he was a very, very good manager, managed abroad as well. He said to me, "You've got to open your eyes and believe your own eyes, because so many people will tell you so many different things that you'll get absolutely confused with it all. Believe your own eyes. And if you fail, it'll be because you failed. If you succeed, it'll be because you succeeded, and not relying on other people. And I think managers, good managers, if you have a look through the history, the top managers have all been able to deal with players and deal with situations that are put in front of them.
Nice.
Brilliant.
Cool.
So that's been Midnite Boxed In with Tony Pulis. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe.
Tony!